Final Liberation for Windows PC, released back in 1997. This was one of Warhammer's first big games. Although it was turn-based, it had a very live-action feel to it, as all men and tanks were individually animated, as were various explosions and smouldering remains of tanks, orcs and marines left scattered on the battlefield. This game aimed to bring the Warhammer epic franchise of that time to your computer screen and home. Did it succeed? Let's give it the classic game treatment. Okay, so first of all, why did I come back to this sucker? Because basically it's a good game, and where it differs to a lot of modern games, modern strategy games, is that, like for instance Warhammer Armageddon, good game in its own right, no doubt, but it's nice to have like individual units, like when you have a squad of 6 men, you can see all 6, and when one of them is shot, you see that one collapse to the ground.
Basically, the dumb, woke, conformist humies make crap games, so older games are still superior.
And indeed, with Final Liberation, the gameplay itself is actually a key element to this title. It's an engrossing strategy game in its own right. You have a good single player campaign, but also 2-player mode with plenty of GUI options. I'm playing the good old games version, and they seem to have ironed out some of the many glitches in this game, but many do exist still, and one of the most common ones is that the game just seizes up and freezes after your turn. The AI take their turn and the screen just freezes. This isn't the end of the world, as if it was there before, or if good old games added it, but there's an autosave after every turn. If it wasn't for the autosave, it would be unplayable at times. And this is a Warhammer game, but not just any Warhammer. It's actually a simulation of Epic 40k. Of course, this was like most Warhammer, originally a tabletop game. Epic's character is summed up, as the name suggests, as warfare on a greater scale, with models on a 6mm to 10mm scale. The idea with Epic as well is, like, you know, bigger battles in smaller spaces. Because the units are so small, you can simulate like larger scale battles. Now this title in particular, Final Lib, features just 2 main factions, orcs and their various tribes, and wacky inventive tanks. Then the Imperium, which includes common allies, Imperial Guard, the ever-faithful Imperial Guard that fight with the Space Marines. And as you go through the game on the campaign, you start with access to mainly lower-level Imperial Guard stuff, but as you go through, you get better tanks and more Space Marine technology, as well as, the end, big Titans.
Hail to the Emperor!
And with epic huge Titans, monolithic size and heritage in the Warhammer universe. Now, a points battle between orcs and space marines using the Final Liberation engine is glorious, but a little bit nuanced, some difference in some of the missions. Awesome as it is, yeah, ideally you would have a bit more there. On the plus side, you do, as you go through, you gain access to new weapons, including the huge Titans, and on the orc side, you start to see them using Gargants and Stompers and other interesting units. And there are AAA quality FMV sequences. These story sequences using actors is really cool, and a feature of 90s strategy games in general. However, in this case, the story is actually pretty disjointed. They're still fun to watch, but the story is not exactly memorable. It's a bit of a mess.
Your setbacks, Pachenka, are due to your inadequacies.
But look, what you've got here are the foundations of a really cool game. You can still play it on 2-player for a long time. You know, Playing with a human opponent will add a certain like skill and variety to it. Obviously today, if it was released today, I'm sure it would have an online mode and all sorts of scenarios and DLC, and that would really make it like, you know, more of a classic. But for the time, it's very good. As I said, I played it largely for the cool like sprites and animations, to see the result of your strategy on the battlefield resulting in a tank blowing up and the smoldering remains landing on the field indeed made the gameplay feel epic. There is also people who have tried to mod this game, and if you were really into it, you probably could add more of this variety I've talked about it needing. It's definitely a good experience anyway. The units have been detailed. You get both land and aerial units, and some of the cool like complexities of the Warhammer universe have been added into the game. So basically a really enjoyable, but just with a little more time and love, it could have really hit the spot. And even now has potential. I wouldn't be surprised if a modern version or a game very much inspired by this was released at some point. It's just beautiful to see all the sprites of the nice detailed units on the field. Overall, for me, for 1997, this game is an absolute gem, and if you're into these kind of games, you will not be disappointed. There are issues, as I've mentioned, but you know, I still have to say this is actually a pretty important game in the chain of early Warhammer games, moving on to today's Warhammer games that are a lot more polished. So I would give this a 7.5 out of 10. And as I said, there could be potential for Games Workshop to pick up the raw pieces of this and make another one. Cheers guys, see you in the next one.
Goodbye, Agrippa. May the Emperor guide you in your quest.